Well, I think I'm gonna have to give up on this one for the day. This will have to be another video sometime. I'm gonna have to tear that carburetor off of there and go through that. It died right after I shut the camera off pretty much, and then I checked the plugs again, and the one that was wet was dry after that, and then I couldn't get fuel to the carburetor, and then once I got it again, it started leaking everywhere and wouldn't fire. So it just needs that carburetor gone through. I'm sure it's all gummed up from sitting. Well, we're gonna get back to working on this Ford 8N. I'm gonna pull that carburetor off and get it cleaned up, and then hopefully it'll run enough we can get it on the trailer and get it over to the shop. I must already had that loose from last time. Those aren't too bad to remove. They just have a couple little on the linkages here. They're spring loaded. You just push forward on them and it pops them out of there. I'll get that inside and we'll get it tore apart. I don't have too much for tools here, but I managed to find a couple of screwdrivers. We'll count the turns on this before we take it out. Sounds like 1.5. A couple little spacers there. Under there, now we're leaking again. Under there, there's another jet, I believe. Well, maybe not. You can kind of see in there's some gunk in there. We'll take this one out here too. Well, that was only out like a quarter of a turn. None of it looks super dirty. Oh, that one's really tight. Well, I got 3 out of the 4 loose. I'll have to try using the vice grips on this one to get it loose. I don't want to strip it out. That came loose. I don't have a rebuild kit for this or anything, so I'm hoping we can just clean it up and we don't wreck that gasket between the top of the carb body and the float bowl. Well, that doesn't look too bad. There's a little bit of gunk in there. You can see the, looks like almost like dirt, but it's probably rust from that fuel tank. And then we can pull this out of there too. We'll pull the float out. That doesn't sound like it's got any fuel in it. Needle. That doesn't look too bad. I don't see anything in there that would cause that to leak. Inside there doesn't look bad either. Make sure this is tight. I don't really want to peel this gasket off, but I kind of want to know if there's anything under there that's... I guess it came off. Well, that doesn't look too bad. So that's the problem with these aftermarket carburetors. Whatever, they're made out of like a pot metal or something, and they get... it's like a coating that's peeling off, and it just keeps doing that. No matter how clean you get that, it'll just keep doing that, or it'll keep like corroding. But the OEM carburetor for these is pretty expensive, so I've just kind of suffered with this one. Because it had it on there when I bought it, and the guy had lost the original carburetor. But you're much better off just rebuilding the original carburetor if you can, as long as they're not completely corroded away. Now I'll get this stuff cleaned up and I'll bring you back. Well, I was cleaning that stuff up. I think I found part of our problem. This little flap here is supposed to be spring loaded, so if you got the tractor choked, it gets enough vacuum on it, it'll actually suck this flap open. But it's just flopping in the wind here, so we weren't getting it actually choked off to suck any fuel up. So that was probably part of our issue, other than the car being dirty too. But I do have another carburetor that came with it. I might take this one apart because it looks like it's in a little better shape. It's still another aftermarket one, but I might take this apart, see what it looks like inside. Maybe we'll at least use the float bowl off of it because it has the choke mechanism in it. And that one, you can see how it's shut. And then if I take a screwdriver, you can open it, but it pops, it springs back closed. You can kind of see the spring mechanism underneath it there, where that's missing on the other one, which kind of, it worries me where that spring went though. I didn't hear it fall out, but it might have fallen out. I'll take a look on the ground where we took it off. Hopefully it just fell out on the ground. Well, I got it all the way back together. I used the float bowl off that parts carburetor because that was in better shape, but then the top half of the one I took off the tractor was in a little better shape. It's still dirty on the outside, but It should run now, especially with that choke working correctly. I think that was one of our biggest problems. We'll go put this back on the tractor and see what happens. Alright, we'll get this put back on here and give it a try. The gasket stayed on here, so I'm gonna leave that alone. We might end up needing a new gasket on there. That might be part of our problem also. If you didn't watch the previous video, I'll put a link to it up in the corner. I monkeyed with it for quite a while and couldn't get it going, and I just didn't have time to go through this carburetor. I don't know if somebody put this on here like a piece of radiator hose, or if that's the actual rubber piece it's supposed to have. There, I got it. Throttle works, choke works. These adjustment screws, this one for the low speed was only out like a quarter turn, so I usually start with them at like 1 to 1.5 turns. So I turn that one out 1 turn and I turn the high speed out 1.5, because that's what that one was at before. So we'll see if that does anything. I'll get the jumper pack and we'll give it a try. Alright, I got the jumper pack hooked up. Let's see if it fires up. Still not getting anything. It's leaking a little bit out of that line. Got a little pop out of it. I'm not sure why it's not going now. Try adjusting this. Just do a half a turn. Losing spark when I'm cranking or what, because then I let off of it is when we got the pop out of it, and then it quit working again. So I'm wondering if we're losing spark as we're cranking, maybe. I don't recommend doing this normally, but I'm going to spray a little carb clean up in that carburetor as we're cranking and see if it fires. Huh. Wonder if we got an intake leak. I had the gas off, so. Sounds like it's running pretty good now. The choke's off. Kind of wondering if we do have a leak on that intake. It's not wanting to suck fuel right away. It doesn't want to idle, but I'll let it warm up a little bit. Have a little bit of a mist to it. I'll drive it over to the barn and get it inside. It just keeps raining on and off on me. Too well, but put the mower down. This one doesn't have a live PTO, so you gotta have it spinning to lift the implement, so I disconnect that shaft so the mower doesn't have to be spinning if I'm just moving it around. Otherwise the mower's gotta be on and lift it up and down. So I'll get that intake put back on there after it cools off. Now that exhaust is hot, it's kind of hard to get in there to put that on. Then we'll grease up this mower. I want to do a couple of rounds on some trails here before I take it to the shop, because I got some walking trails and stuff around I like to keep mowed down around here. So we'll do that and then we'll get it loaded up on the trailer. So I've been trying to restart the tractor after I shut it off and it's not wanting to restart, and there's a ballast resistor right here. Being that this thing has been converted to 12 volts, you got to have a ballast resistor to drop the voltage going to the coil. But I'm getting 12.5 volts out of both sides of that, and there's another deal up here that looks like some type of resistor, and I'm still getting 12 volts out of that because this wire here goes back to the ignition coil. So if we go up to there, make sure the key's on. So if we go up to the coil wire, it's here. And I'm getting 13 volts up there. So that doesn't make sense. So that ballast resistor must not be working. It still should fire though, unless I am ruining that coil. That's a 6-volt coil. So it doesn't feel hot or anything. I might pop that cap off and see what the points in there look like. So maybe we just have a low spark issue. I pulled the distributor cap and the contacts don't look great. So we'll clean those up. If you've ever worked on one of these before, you'll know they put the distributor in a terrible spot. And that rotor, it looks a little bit burned. I'll clean all that stuff up and see if that helps. And we'll take a look at the points in there too. It's easier if you pull the whole hood off, but I don't have time to take all that out because the gas tank comes off with it, so it's kind of a pain to undo everything. The points didn't look too bad, and I cleaned this up just with my knife. That's a lot shinier than it was. And the rotor, that was all black on the end. I'm hoping that helps us get a little bit stronger spark. The points looked fine, so other than that, it would be maybe the coil. It's getting voltage to the coil, but running 12 volts to it, it might have ruined that coil, or at least made it so it's throwing weak spark. Just finishing up putting this distributor cap back on. That clip is being stubborn. There, I got it. The last wire. These wires are kind of old and stiff, so they kind of just stayed in place. Otherwise, I do usually number them so I know I'm not putting them back in the wrong order. Well, I don't know if that did anything or not. We'll see if it fires up. I might not have turned the gas back on. I don't know what we got going on. Well, this thing is being awfully stubborn again. I'm not sure what we got going on. I want to get it to the shop and we can test compression on it and see if it's just low in compression is why it's not sucking fuel up, or if it's an intake issue or what. But I don't know why when it fires up it runs really good, but then as soon as you shut it off and go to restart it, then it won't start. The carburetor started leaking fuel again, but I think it's because a lot of it's just, it's not getting sucked all the way up in the intake and then it just drains back out the carburetor. You can hear it dripping in the pail there. I'll try it one more time. I might try to test voltage while we're cranking, see if I'm losing voltage to that coil. Sometimes it fires once I let off the button, so I'm wondering if we're losing spark while we're cranking. So if you watch that tester, I'll put it on the balance resistor, or ballast resistor, so then we got that. Then when I crank, kind of jumping all over the place when I crank. So what I might do is try to run a power wire down to the coil, or just take the power wire from the coil up here and hook it right to 12 volts and see if that does anything for us. I'm going to take this wire off from the key switch. Yeah, this ballast resistor looks like it's about had it. I'm not sure if this is still our issue or not, but it definitely is a issue. And then I need a socket for the other one. Well, that wasn't even tight. That could have been part of our issue also. So I think I'll do is I'll just move this up to the stud. And hopefully we don't ruin our coil. I'll get another ballast resistor in there. I just want to see if this is our issue. Probably should have disconnected the battery while I did this also. Well, let's see if that did anything. Yeah, I'd say that was our issue. Now it'll idle even. Well, if we got the carburetor cleaned anyway, that's still a good thing. Oh, I got the gas turned off. Well, now let's see if it restarts. It'll be a good sign. Still got a little bit of a mist. Well, that must have been the main issue. Now I just basically bypassed both of these resistors. Well, now throw that tube back on there and we'll see if we can get it loaded on the trailer to bring over to the shop. Well, we got it loaded up here. I gotta strap it down and then we'll haul it over to the shop. I've got the correct rim and tire for this side. It just needs a tube in it, so I ordered a tube. I got that to put in. Then we'll deal with that ignition problem. I'll have to order a ballast resistor for it and clean it up some, and then this one will probably be going down the road. Might do some mowing with it first, but I want to get working on that other Ford tractor I've got. So this one's got to go, and then that one can get some new parts and stuff in it. That one's been sitting a long time too, so I'm sure it'll be more of the same. And the wiring's a disaster on that one, so I'm just going to rewire the entire thing. We'll get this strapped down and head over to the shop. Well, it's a few days later. I got the tractor over at the shop, and I got a new ballast resistor to put on it. If you're looking for one of these, this is a CarQuest brand one. It's part number RUA 1049. It's a little bit different than the one we got. It's got spade connectors here, so I'll have to splice some of those on the ends of the wires, and then you can actually see the coil in here, so you'd be able to see if that's burnt or anything if you're having trouble with it. So we're gonna replace this one and then see how it starts. We're gonna have a couple extra wires here, I think, because they had it running through a second resistor here. I'm not sure why they replaced that one but kept one in line. Now this one you can't really see. You can see down the back side just a little bit. There's a little bit of a spring in there. So what I did to get it going is I just spliced these two wires together. I just put them on the same stud. So we were running direct 12 volts from the key to the ignition coil. So one of these left to go on one side of the resistor, and then this one will have to go on the other. So I'll have to cut these ends off and splice some spade connectors on. That red wire there, we don't even really need. I'll just take that out of there. Less confusion if something ever happens again. We'll just put the new one down like that. I didn't record crimping the ends on and stuff. It's kind of hard to get in here, so you wouldn't be able to see much. Get that on there. I'll get some stuff cleaned up and we'll see if it fires up. Well, I put some fresh gas in it and we'll see if it fires up. I'll have to go get the jumper pack. I got the jumper pack hooked up. Let's try it again. Well, I got the mower greased up. We only got the 2 spindles. The one's busted over on this side, but still got the 2 blades. We'll go try to do some mowing just to test it out. Now I got the tractor out back here. The grass is getting pretty long. We'll give it a try. It's not the greatest with only the 2 spindles, but we'll work the tractor a little bit, test it out. Well, that's gonna do it for this one. The only thing I didn't get done was putting a tube in the original front tire. I wanted to do that, get rid of this thing. But the tube that I had ordered a while back, I ordered one for my other tractor too, and didn't realize that this has the 19-inch front rims, and I ordered the tubes for the 16s like the other tractors have that I have. So I'll have to order a tube for that and get that put in there. The steer's a little hard with that bigger tire in the front. These older 8Ns were kind of tough for steering anyway, and then you put a bigger tire like that on there and it gets pretty tough to steer. But it didn't mow too bad. It's kind of hard not to miss strips when you're missing an entire blade off the thing. But maybe we'll do another video cleaning it up. Just do a quick one. I'm getting some of this. I'm not sure how much of this I want to mess with, because it'll start, the paint will start coming off. You can see it's metal there. I think somebody had started to paint this with primer or something at one point. You can kind of see where it's been sanded on and stuff, and the paint on the cap here. But well, if you like this sort of thing, like the videos and subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching.